Today's video is Chapter 4, Lesson 1. We're going to be doing some more graphing. The first method you learned was graphing using the intercepts. So it would look like a question like this, and we would scribble out the x, figure out that y is 4, scribble out the y, figure out that x is 6, draw a dot at x equals 6, y equals 4, and connect the dots. Your second method was to graph by making a table. So maybe we had an equation that looked like this. We made a table. We got to pick any x's we wanted. Sometimes there were smarter x's than others. We evaluated for the x's that we picked, and half of 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Half of 2 is 1. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. And then we would come over here and plot the points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, negative 5, 1, 2, negative 4, negative 2 would be down here at negative 6, and we would connect the dots. You had a third method, which was the direct variation method, and that's when you would have an equation like y equals 2x, and you would put your first dot at the origin, and then you would use the slope, the coefficient of x, and you'd say up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1, and you would connect your dots. So you've had 3 different ways of graphing equations. You've graphed using intercepts, a dot on each axis. You've graphed making a table, and you've graphed direct variation where you use the slope. All right, so today's is your fourth option, graphing using slope-intercept form. So it sounds a little bit like direct variation where we needed the slope. It sounds kind of like using the intercepts where we found where they crossed each axis. All right, the equations have to be written y equals something x plus or minus something, kind of like our direct variation. If they look like that first one, then we're going to have to rearrange. But this one is good. This one says y equals something x plus or minus a number in the back. We know from direct variation that the 4 is called the slope. The coefficient is the slope. That's going to tell us how to make our dots. What kind, are we going up or down? Are we going left or right? The number at the back is going to be our y-intercept. It's going to tell us where the equation is crossing this line. So you're always going to start with the y-intercept. And then second step will be to use the slope. Start with the number in the back, and kind of like in direct variation, we always started at 0 because there was no number in the back. Woo, it was a plus 0. So our first dot was always at 0. So our first dot is going to be back here, and then we're going to use the slope to get the other dots. First dot at negative 1 would look like that. Up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, to the right 1. Remember, if I run out of space, negative 4 and negative 1 is the same thing as positive 4 and positive 1. So I could go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I could go left 1. Connect with arrows, and we're done. That's it. That's it. So to recap, this is your first dot. This is how you get the rest of your dots. First dot is on the y-axis, always on the y. It's the y-intercept. The slope is the coefficient, and it's our second step. It gets our remaining dots. All right, let's practice this one. We're going to start at positive 8 on the y-axis. So I'm going to draw a dot at positive 8, and then I'm going to use my slope up 1 to the right 2 to get my other dots. So if I go up 1 and over 2, I draw my dot there. Remember, I could go down 2 and down 1 and left 2. I can make them both negative. Down 1 and left 2 would be right there. Either one, I could keep going up here, I could go here. As long as they're in a straight line and you give me 3 dots, you're good. But if you ever run out of space, know that positive positive is the same as negative negative. Now, they're not always going to be so nice to us. They might put it back in standard form, not in slope-intercept form. They might put it in standard form, but they want us to do this new method. So we're going to have to use skills from our first chapter called rearranging things to make it look like y equals. So the first thing I want to do is move the 3x to the other side of the equal sign. So if I do that, I have 2y is equal to, now remember I said the x stuff has to come first and then the plus or minus stuff. So when I move my 3x, I'm going to write him first, negative 3x plus 6. Then I want to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, cross out what's my answer, and we can have an improper fraction. It just means down 3 over 2. And this stuff equals positive 3. So I'm going to come over here and graph my equation. I'm going to start at positive 3. That's always my first dot on the y-axis, right there at 3. This negative either can be on the top or it can be on the bottom. If it's on the top, I'm going down and right, or I can go up and left. So down 3, right 2, or I can go up and left. Doesn't matter. I could go down 3 and over 2 more. Oh, I went down 4, shoot. I could go down 3 and over 2, except I have to do it correctly. Erase, down 3 and over 2. Connect with arrows. So they want us to rearrange. So let's double check. We moved the 3x to the other side. That's why he became a negative 3x. But we put him first at the beginning. We didn't put him in the back. Then we had a positive 2y. So we divided by positive 2, divide by positive 2, divide by positive 2. This is okay to leave it improper. And this actually divided to a whole number. And there we go. And then we knew our first dot and we used our slope to get our other dots. All right, the next part of your homework is going to ask you to write the equation, and they might give you a picture and you're going to use that picture and your eyeballs, or they might just write out the information. So let's practice each one. Okay, let's do the picture one first. So my first dot is always at the y-intercept, so that's going to be the guy that's at the back. So the guy at the back is a 4. What kind of 4 is he? He's a positive 4, so I have to actually write a positive, a little plus sign in the front. I know I'm going to have a y equals. I know I'm going to have an x. Now my job is to figure out the slope, my coefficient. What's my coefficient to my x going to be? Well, I know that it's downhill, so I better make sure I write negative. I'm going down 2 and right 3. So negative 2/3. I can also go up 2, which is positive, and left 3. 3 to the left, which is negative. So either way, you get a negative 2/3 as your coefficient, and we're done. That's all we had to do. We had to look for our first dot. He goes in the back. We figure out our slope. He goes up front. Over here, it's even easier. We write y equals slope goes right here in front of as our coefficient. 7 goes in the back. What kind of 7 is he? He's positive 7, and we're done. That's it. All you have to do is write it like that. All right, we have our 2 exceptions, our 2 weird type equations. If I were to say y equals 7, or if I said x equals 7, there's no this doesn't look the same. There's no x, there's no coefficient, there's no guy in the back. So this is something that you kind of have to just put to memory. Y equals 7 is a horizontal line at 7. X equals 7 is a vertical line at x equals 7. So horizontal and vertical. You just have to memorize them. Y equals 7, horizontal line at 7. X equals 7, vertical line at x equals 7. All right, your Google Classroom questions are here. Purple questions 1 and 2 use this equation And I want you to type in, what are you going to do with this negative 6? How are you going to use it? What's it telling you to do? And question 2, what are you going to do with this 3? How do you use it? What do you do with it? Question 3 is the blue question down here. I wrote the equation in standard form. I want you to rearrange the equation so that it is in slope-intercept form. All right, good luck.